So now that we finished with the peaches, those of you who've seen my last video, we made compote out of the peaches, like peach juice. You can use it to drink, you can use it to make like a cocktail, whatever you like. That's what we enjoy over the winter. Now we're going to be doing the tomatoes. And what's happening here is these are going to be peeled and made whole into jars, which are going to be used for cooking. And these, because they're a little bit better, they're a nicer sort, we're going to be grinding and again for cooking. And of course we separated a few whole, which we're just going to enjoy in salad. But now let me show you guys exactly where we're getting our tomatoes from. And here we are. There, that's how the tomato grows straight from the vine. I'm sure a couple of you guys have seen them before, but for those of you who haven't, or you've just seen them in grocery stores, already picked and packaged, this is where your tomatoes come from. And this is actually a great snap because it's showing you the 3 stages. Here they're completely unripe, here they're on their way, and this one right here is actually ripe for the picking. I'm not going to pick him now because we're going to pick him probably for dinner. No point to pick him early. The longer he stays in the sun, the better. But yeah. And the smell. Ugh. These here are strawberries. You can see our garden went crazy. And actually in our last video when we were making the peaches, we're actually cooking fried eggplant. And the reason is, look, our eggplants are ready, and this is the sort. It's a white eggplant. You see how many there are? They're there. And we also have the traditional purple ones that most of you guys are probably familiar with. Just a smaller sort here. Let me show you. There we are. So yeah, we just wanted to make a quick little lunch because we're really busy with our preparations for the winter. Our cucumbers. Let me show you. We actually just picked them because they were getting really big. Here's a few. All right, anyway, that's a little quick tour. Now let's get back to our tomatoes. This tribute is dedicated to my sister, Emily Suchirova. Look at this guy. Had a little issue, but that's okay. He's still going to be delicious. This guy also. These guys were like twins stuck together. The most delicious tomatoes are the ugliest ones, just so you know. I love summer. Right. This step seems pretty straightforward, I'm sure. But make sure you thoroughly wash those tomatoes because you obviously don't want any dirt in your jars. Also, any bacteria that could potentially grow is possibly going to destroy your jar. So make sure you wash them thoroughly and you'll be good to go. As straightforward as this step may seem, it is imperative that you get those jars fully sterilized. Again, not to let bacteria grow. I would say it's more important to really sterilize the jars than it is the tomatoes because the tomato on the vine is, as crazy as it sounds, it's cleaner than that jar that's been sitting there, especially if you've been reusing those jars. So make sure you really sterilize or you might be wasting your precious time. So once you've washed up your tomatoes, next step is to peel and stuff them into these jars. Yeah, this is a pretty time-consuming part. It started driving me nuts at one point because we have tons of tomatoes to peel and you do this all day. Your fingers get all sour. I remember this part from when I was little. I never loved it after doing it for like 3 hours, but just push through. Another fun fact, actually, while we're doing the peeling, we are going to be making homemade ketchup as well in another video, which has nothing to do with the ketchup you get in the store. I actually don't like to eat store ketchup anymore. Why do I love this part? You might be asking. I don't know. I just love the squish that you get when you smush it into the jar. Yeah, that right there. Anyway, something to note about this, you're going to be trying to vacuum seal these. So, well, not trying, you really have to vacuum seal these jars. So what you have to do is make sure that you push those tomatoes down, really get that squish out of them. Make sure there's no air inside. Air also will compromise your jars. Actually, it'll destroy your jars. And stuff them just up to about the rim. Много вкусный. Remember those charming eggplants we saw in the beginning? Well, here they are with our Bulgarian sauce, which is Bulgarian yogurt, dill, garlic, and a pinch of salt. Delicious. And don't forget the beer. I know, we're in working hours, just one. Okay, or maybe two. Hey, a little beer never harmed anyone. Okay, beer's down, lunch break's over. Now back into it. We have the jars pretty much stuffed. We're actually going to stuff them a little bit more than this. We want to leave about a finger to allow them to vacuum seal when we put them to boil. Very important. So we're beginning the second batch, which is going to be a similar process. We're going to be peeling them just like before, except this time we're going to be grinding them in this machine right here. And these tomatoes are, like I said, a little bit of the better sort. They're sweeter. The uglier the tomato, the better. Really, the only difference here is you're going to grind the tomatoes. Up to here, the process is exactly the same. You wash them, peel them. You don't put any salt or anything like that inside. A really cool fact. Back in the day in Bulgaria, when people didn't have refrigeration, they heavily relied on tomatoes like this for the winter. I'm sure you can imagine why. Otherwise, people had no way to get their vitamins. You couldn't just go to the store and buy something, and you couldn't grow in the summer tomatoes. So this was vital for their survival, really. Crazy to think about. As far as meat goes, back in the day, people would bury their meat. Yeah, you heard me right. With no refrigeration and no way to really keep the meat chilled, the only thing to do is bury it either in the snow or deep into the ground in order to keep it cold. I mean, you've probably heard of that before. It's not a new method or an unknown method, but it's pretty cool to know that my not so distant family members were preserving their meat that way. Another thing that we still do today, because yes, we don't bury our meat anymore, don't worry, but we make lukanka, which is like a dried salami type of thing, or pastorma, which is something like a prosciutto. So dried meat, buried meat, and also canned meat. I'll make a video on canned meat separately. Да?
Да ги залатя, защото
По-силно.
трябва много хубаво да не стане.
So to translate what she's saying there, she's basically not letting me seal the jars because they need to be super tight or else you're going to get bombs. Next stage is once they're fully sealed, you put them into this big pot. Cover them up with water just so. And you have to make sure you have a towel on the bottom so that they don't explode, they don't break. And you boil them for... Колко време вариш доматите? 20 minutes. Yes, I know it's a huge mess, I know, but only one thing at a time. Yeah. And then you end up with a huge mess. and your winter harvest. Little by little, we're getting ready. And then the last stage, once they're boiled for about 20 minutes, you put them upside down. It's burning, so hang on, let me try to show you. So that the cap can get, you see how it's like inverted? And that's how you know that it's really secure. If it's not fully inverted, then you've got a bomb. It's no good. And then you cool off and enjoy. Voila, to this year's final dose. At least for now. I think this will do. How many do we have here? I'm not even gonna start counting, but quite a few. Now it's time, I think, to just clean up. The work never ends. This is the last batch we made a few weeks ago from strawberries. And, well, I really don't know how. Cherries, call it cherries. And this is actually last year's batch. We still have some left over from a few months ago. They last very long. They're gonna last for, as a matter of fact, there's an old house that has just, the only thing that's left is a rack full of these compoti. I'm gonna add it into here so you could see. The whole house is crumbled and that one rack is just remaining. It's really weird.